Well, hello everybody. Welcome again to another episode of the Facts and Fatherhood podcast. I'm your host, of course, Demetrius, and I am so glad to have the opportunity to come and be with you one more time. That's right, we are here to experience the blessing of another day. And I'm really excited about this opportunity. Of course, I always tell you that on every single podcast. I want you to know that my goal through our podcast is to help other fathers love being fathers the way I love being a father. Yeah, it's possible. You can love to do this, right? And so there's so many different things that we have been doing, and so many conversations that we have been having. And today is not going to be any different. We are going to have a great time today. So I want you to stay tuned. As a matter of fact, go ahead and share this podcast with somebody right there. Go ahead and subscribe for me, right? Hit that notification bell so you can know whenever we have another podcast, whenever we have another conversation going on, you can be a part of that. You won't miss it. All right. And then share this with somebody. Share this with some dads and moms and, parents, and share it with the children. Share it with your puppy. I mean, just share it. Okay. It does not matter. Just share this content, share this information with someone you know. I'm excited to have you here joining me on this journey. And as we say, men, we are working to be a good man, doing the best we can, and working to make our best better every single day. So my hope is that after this particular podcast, that it'll be exactly that. You can walk away saying, I have some more tools that will help me make my best better. I want you not to forget there are some exciting things that we have that are coming down the pipe, right? I want you not to forget. I'm so excited. This thing is probably going to be releasing somewhere around Father's Day. And it's perfect. It's going to be releasing around Father's Day. So I want you to make sure that you prepare to get your hands on this book right here. Okay. It is called Like Arrows in My Hand. Listen, a lot of the stuff that I talk about is in this book. It's about a life experience, all the different things that I kind of walk through. It tells you a little bit about our story, our journey, but then it gives you some tools that I know are going to be beneficial for you in your journey, in your walk as a father. No matter what stage of fatherhood you're in, I know it's going to be helpful, right? Even if you're just looking back and now your grandpa, like me, oh my gosh, we just got back from celebrating my first grandson's first birthday. Can't get any better than that, right? So I'm super excited about that opportunity. And that little guy is doing so great. His little personality is just coming through so strong. And we had a lot of fun doing that. Also, I don't want you to forget, we have some merch that's available. We have some other things that are available for you. We have some other tools, some other resources that are available to you. So I want you to go to www.factsandfathers.com. Go over there to the shop. Check it out. There's some hoodies, there's some caps, there's all kinds of different things that are over there available for you to be able to purchase and be able to, put on a lot of those little deals that we have over there. We have a little hoodie and cap and all that kind of stuff like that that has a statement or saying on it. I decided to dedicate some of my products to the memory of my own father. And there's certain things that he used to say sometimes that was so interesting. And one of the things he used to say all the time was, boy, don't let the devil fool you. So we have all kind of caps and stuff like that. And some of them say girls, some of them say hey, some of them say bro. But the message is the same. Whichever one of those comes in front of that, just don't let the devil fool you. Right. And so we did that in honor of our dad, of my dad. And so just go over there, check it out. There's a cup. You can even hold the cup up. If somebody's being kind of fly with you. You can just hold that cup up while you're drinking your coffee, your tea, and then see the message on there that says, "Don't let the devil fool you." Oh, just kidding. But anyway, I'm so happy about that. So excited about that. There's some other resources over there that are available to help you in your development as far as ways you can reach out to us and contact us. And so I just want you to make sure that you take advantage of those things. All right. So please, 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 when you get an opportunity, first opportunity, matter of fact, go do it. Go. You can get some of that merchandise. Okay. Also, there's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, all the things. Just check us out, man. Share some of our little shorts and stuff like that over there. And we'll be so happy that you did and appreciate your contribution to the work that we do. All right. So today I am joined in the studio, in the podcast studio today. I am joined by a great guest. Okay. He's going to tell you a little bit more about himself, but his name, check this out. His name is cool, right? His name is cool, right? His name is Olalu Oganimi. I think I said that right. You know, so he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I got it right. He's a leadership mentor, and he's a children's book author, and he's an advocate for parenting. Right, we need that. Right, we need advocates for parenting. It is one of the toughest jobs. I have a T-shirt that says "Fatherhood, toughest job you'll ever love." It's a tough job, right? But it's a lovable and it is a doable job. And Olalu has a great background in leadership. He's really, really great at inspiring and connecting and just really helping to empower the next generation and to support those of us as parents, him being in the same boat as we are, to help us along the journey. All right. So if you all would do me a favor and just please welcome to the Facts and Fatherhood podcast, my guest, Mr. Olalu Oganyemi. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing so well, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I think it's really a blessing to be able to share the stage, the virtual stage with you, and be able to inspire some of these fathers. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, absolutely. So, man, I don't know. I've learned over time that there is really, I know in the Hebrew language, there's really no such thing as a coincidence. Like everything happens for a reason and there's an intention behind all the stuff that happens. And so I'm really, really grateful that we had an opportunity to connect, and I had an opportunity to find out about some of the things that you do, and I'm excited for the audience to learn about some of the things that you do that support and advocate for parenting. And of course, our emphasis here is fatherhood, but of course, we want to help whoever is doing in the job of parenting. Our emphasis and focus is on fathers, of course. But man, I don't think parents can have enough advocates, people that are in their corner. That are advocating for this role in this job of parents. So I'm excited for you just to jump in, man. Tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us a little bit how you got here, why you do what you do. Tell us what you do, all the things. Let's go. Let me hear from you.
Absolutely. So I 100% agree. There's no coincidences. And I believe that the alignment, the powerful alignment of this show with what I'm doing, you talked about advocating for parenting, but the thing that you talk about all the time is making fatherhood enjoyable, making us love being dads, making us love being parents in general. So that alignment is perfect. And that's really what I'm all about. I grew up the fifth of six children. Went to Grambling State University. That's what the G stands for on my hoodie, if people are wondering. And so I grew up in that area, and I grew up the
HBCU.
fifth. Yep, that's right. Yes, sir. I grew up the fifth of six children, large family, and we really believed in being united. We really believe in teamwork, and to this day, we still talk every single day. We text. But that all started with the foundation that my parents set for me. It started with my father, who immigrated from Nigeria for college. He actually went to Alabama A&M, so he really started us on that HBCU path. But then, you just continue to go through and you talk about all these things and these values they gave us growing up. And that truly became a part of my life throughout my entire life. Now, of course, that didn't mean I didn't have struggles. I had many struggles that I had to grow through. I had to grow through insecurities. I had to grow through all the identity crises that I believe that a lot of young men go through. I had to go through the even rejection of my own name, my father, and who I am as a person. I thought that was a very important role part of my life because again, I grew up in Grambling, Ruston, Louisiana, and if you didn't know, there's not a lot of local Olaolu Ogunyemis there, right? It's just how it is. And so it's really trying to go through that and find myself and find my identity and learn about who I am. And so that's really what led me, I think, on this path to
Mhm.
try to find a way to grow and develop. It led me on a path to find extracurricular activities like basketball and sports in general and all the other things that we have. And then it led me towards the Marine Corps after college. I think that truly, as I was trying to find myself and grow into the career that I wanted to do, the Marine Corps is one of those things that I truly wanted to do. One of my mentors was Army. My uncle, who fought in Vietnam, he was Army. And of course, being the guy I was, a little bit of a rebel, I said I wanted to be better. So I joined the Marine Corps. Shout out to all the Marines and really all the service members out there.
Mm.
That was just part of my story, and that's really what led me here today. It's as a father, a husband. I truly just want to continue my journey and the things I learn every single day, whether it be through my blog or through my content partnership with YouVersion or whatever I'm doing. It's really trying to share some of the things that I'm learning along my own journey because I think that's one of the more that's a key thing that you talk about as well. We're all learning, we're all growing, and we're trying to be better than the day before. And so that's really what I'm all about. I have a 16-year-old daughter, I have a 12-year-old son, and I have a 7-year-old daughter, which means my time is very full, and that's a widespread. But I'm always trying to invest in them.
Mhm.
And the last thing I'll say is I was a young father, and one of the things that I think that was key from when we had our discussions before is that I was not prepared for fatherhood. And that's what I'm trying to help inspire other people because I know there's plenty of people out there whether you've just found out that you're a father or you've been a father for 10 years already or whatever, you may feel like you're not prepared, and that's okay. And I just want to be able to speak into your life today. So, again, I'm very happy to be here, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Wow. Wow, man, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. Um, that story that you talk about, what you mentioned just a moment ago, it really resonates with me because this is part of my why. This is why I'm spending time doing a podcast. This is why I'm spending time trying to produce content and trying to do things that I think would just help to support. I tell people I am not some guru. I am not some board certified expert per se. Clinically trained, classically trained, developed. I said, but the University of LIFE, okay, and my experience as a father has taught me so much, and I just felt like that it was important to be able to get in the space to be able to try to provide some healthy wholesome conversations, some tools, all the kind of different things that will really help. Because I think in our conversation before we were on the podcast, I was talking about how, man, the day that I held my first son in my hand at the hospital, I mean, that was a surreal moment of vulnerability for me because it was like, man, I at this point I feel and I have a ultra awareness of everything that's not right with me. Every vulnerability, every liability that I have, I'm aware of it in this moment, and I feel so unprepared. I I don't know what I'm supposed to do, like how I'm supposed to feel. Like it's so many different things that's wrapped up into that. And a lot of times people respond in not necessarily the best way to that place in that space of vulnerability. It kind of, puts you in a place where you can kind of feel hopeless. And some people, actually give up and, throw away that, wonderful opportunity. And so with that being said, I like to talk to you a little bit more about that reality of insecurity. And, I know we talk about we take those moments of insecurity and like grow through them, right? Instead of allowing the insecurity and allowing that sense of liabilities to govern or guide us in what we're doing. How do we take that moment and grow through it?
Yeah, phenomenal question because I 100% agree that those insecurities, they just continue to sort of rear their ugly heads all throughout our lives. You know, whether for me, it started in childhood. Again, I already told you that I legitimately did not like my name. I'm not joking when I say that. I mean, when I walk up to people and I go to introduce myself, one of the hardest things that I had is when I would go to shake their hands, I didn't even want to talk to them because I knew the next thing coming out of their mouth was going to be, what? Whoa, 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 whoa. So now, and it gave me that immediate feeling of rejection, right? And that was my first bout with insecurity. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the bout I had. It's like I didn't want to tell people my name. I was overweight as a kid. I had this gap that was wide in my mouth, and all these things. The list goes on and on of the list of reasons that I felt insecure. So much so that a guy who has a bubbly personality, I mean, if you would have seen my 4 or 5 year old picture of myself where I have a cowboy hat on and boots, and I used to have the biggest smile in pictures. But then you transition that to about my middle school, junior high, maybe even early high school years, and you see this different person. And that dynamic there is important because what I realize is that as we go through those things and we don't really address them and understand, we don't name them and understand what they are, they would rear their ugly heads again in the future. And what it looks like for us as adults, and like I'll speak for myself personally, it looks like me arriving to my first job as my first career as a Marine, and I'm leading 80 people, and I hear somebody whispering around the corner, right? What are they saying about me? Right. And this is not even a reality. It can't even, they may have been talking about something completely different. But why did they get quiet when I walked in the room? And now I'm starting to have these things, they're starting to reverberate in my mind. And that's because I never once faced that insecurity back when I was in middle school, junior high, and early high school, or maybe even elementary. And that's really what it's all about. So it's really just facing those things and naming them, naming those insecurities, understanding what they are. So that way, when you feel those moments, especially as adults, you're able to go back and say, okay, now I know what I'm going through. I know what I have to face. I know that this may or may not be reality, but the most important thing is I know how I can react to this because this is an insecurity that I have been dealing with since I was yay big. And I've learned how to now react to this. I learned how to set myself up for success in the future. So really, that's my thoughts on insecurity. It's knowing that it is a consistent journey. I don't know if you can fully grow through insecurity into this, get to the other side. I think the other side is probably heaven. But I truly believe that as we grow through, we learn how to react to it without a negative way or ruminating on the past or the negative circumstances around us.
Got it. Got it. That's just so true. Because I love how you say name it, like call it what it is, because you really can't deal with what you won't face, what you won't confront, right? You tend to kind of try to bury it, try to run away from it. But the truth of the matter is, like, man, when that thing's standing in front of you, I mean, you have to face it head on and deal with it and be honest, you know, about what it was. Like I said, that was my conversation with God. I was like, man, Lord, I don't have a clue what I'm doing, right? You are going to have to show me. You're going to have to teach me. Because if you don't, okay, this is going to be a mess, right? And it kind of reminds me of a verse of a song that we sang when we were in vacation Bible school and Sunday school back in church. And it's a little song that says, "Yes, Jesus loves me." Right? There's a little chorus in there that says, "Little ones to Him belong. They are weak, but He is strong." And it's like that. That is a reality of our lives that I have to be able to admit, recognize my weak. And you know what? I learned over my journey, it's a good thing that I had enough of an awareness of my vulnerabilities, that I had enough of an awareness to recognize where I needed some help with. And thankfully, the Father was so faithful to really kind of guide us and direct us. And now the children on the other side of life, and they're in adulthood. And I tell people this is like, for me, when they ask me, how do I feel? The only word I probably can get, and it falls short of really expressing that, I feel this thing for me, to now see what the results of the investment of time that my wife and I put into the raising of our children. And now, with the way we had it set up, I don't think I talked to you about this before, but the way we had it set up, I told you I had 3 children, have a son, and then I have a set of work on twins. But I didn't tell you that they all have the same birthday, right? So they're exactly apart. My oldest son and the twins are exactly your. I know, I know. And it's so interesting. I say, God has a sense of humor, right? So it's like we went from all the things of life and investing all this time in them, and it's baseball and football and basketball and volleyball and track and all the things, and you're investing all this time, and then all of a sudden everybody's leaving at the same time. So that's a different space there. There's a different type of vulnerability that you feel there. You always having the mind ready, all the things, right? And so again, it's like, first of all, I have all this time, and like I said, that's how I got here. It's I know that somebody can benefit from all of that experience that I had. Now, one of the things I found that was very, very key, and this is one thing I say I am unapologetic about in talking about on this particular platform, this particular podcast. I talk about the reality of how my relationship with the Father, how my faith was paramount, was absolutely essential in me having the success of how I deal, how I manage, how I raise my children, how I lead and guide my family. We had this principle that was a guiding principle for us, and that was this, and that is the word. The word of God is the final authority in everything. And we kind of adapted that a little bit over time and said, no, it is not just the final authority, it is the first and final authority in everything. And so that my faith, it guided me as a father. It guides me as a husband, all the things. And so I want to hear from you. Talk to me a little bit more about the reality, the necessity of how faith plays a role in an essential role in what we do as fathers.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And first of all, I love what you're talking about there because it's something I we talked about in marriage counseling, and I'm sure people have heard of this, but it's the triangle. And I love the idea of this triangle when you have people going on varying paces on the triangle. It seems like if you're here at the bottom of the triangle and you go opposite directions, a lot of times it feels like that's how it feels day to day, right? But I think that the faith that we have serves as the values, that God serves as the pinnacle, the top, the apex of that triangle. So no matter how far off we may drift throughout the day along the bottom of that triangle, so long as we all point ourselves back to God, at the end of the day, we're going to meet each other. And that's where I think that really our faith plays a huge role in just raising resilient families and raising these close-knit families, because no matter what, at the end of the day, you have values that you believe in. One of the things, for example, that we grew up with is that let not the sun go down on your anger. That's the way we talked about it. And I may have misparaphrased that. I apologize to the Bible scholars out there. But the point is, don't allow yourself to go to bed without resolving your conflict. That was one of the foundational principles in my home growing up. And so when I become older, I start thinking about this. When I'm with my children and interacting with my wife, of course we're going to go separate ways. We're all different people. It's 5 humans and a dog in this house. And I can tell you, we all have our own agendas going on day to day. We're not always there thinking about each other. Let me best serve you and let me rub your feet and let me think. I wish that was reality. That's just not the reality of all of us. Every single day, we have different ideas. We have times we want to be there ourselves.
Mhm.
Sometimes we're stressed out because of work or home life. Sometimes, I woke up with a headache and I just stepped off the bed wrong. There's other situations that influence us and how we interact with each other. But the beautiful thing is, if you have a principle that you all can come back to that says that, hey, no matter what happened throughout the day, we may have come at each other head on and clashed. At the end of the day, we're going to come together and we're going to resolve that conflict. That's really what I believe the benefit of having faith in your home that drives you. And there's something else about it. And this is something I had. I was sitting in my vehicle and I was just about in tears thinking about like how proud I was of my children. And it's just one of those random days. I was driving into work. It was early in the morning. It was dark. And I'm just like, for some reason, I'm just thinking about like all their accomplishments, even as they're young. And I just like, I was getting goosebumps just thinking about it, just so proud. And then I just heard this voice, and it was the most beautiful thing in the world. I heard this voice now. It said, you feel that pride that you have for your children? Now imagine the pride that I have in you. And man, that made me sit back and say, wow, That's just the beauty of faith. No matter what's going on in life, no matter how stressed out you may be, no matter how bad it may seem, you have this individual who is immensely proud of you, and he wants you to thrive. It legitimately, God just wants us to thrive, and that's why I get so excited. That's why I believe faith is important in my life, is because I know I serve for a higher purpose. I was born for a purpose, and it was to really just bring glory to God's name. And He's allowing me through platforms and partnerships with you and people like you that are going out and serving these men and serving these areas to continue to sow into lives and help grow people through their journey. And that's all because I live with a higher calling. I live because I know He put me on this earth for a reason. And that's what faith is for me. It truly does drive everything that I do.
Hmm.
And it allows me to bring the family in at the end of the day and say, hey, we may have messed this up, but you know what? Tomorrow today we get to forgive each other because we extend grace because God extended grace to us. And it's the same concept. Now we come back together. Hey, we messed up yesterday,
Exactly.
but we can be better tomorrow.
Absolutely. I love that because it's just, you realize, and the only thing I want to do, the only person I want to be better than is the person that I was yesterday. And when I think about this, one of the greatest revelations, because, and I talk about this, okay, shameless plug, make sure you get that book when it comes out. But I talk about the reality of how um, there was a revelation that occurred to me one day as I'm in my process, right? And this was a process of me thinking about my relationship with my father, right? My father was a man of faith. My father was a scripture Bible man. He was born in 1945, and he used to like to joke sometimes and say, because he was born in 1945 at the end of World War II. And he used to like to joke and say, he said, the reason why they ended the war is because they knew I was coming. So he used to say that. But he's born in 1945. So he lived through Jim Crow and all the things. That was his reality, is what he grew up in. So he grew up in an environment where it required a certain amount of toughness, right, from them. And so that translated into, his raising and rearing of us. So he was very, very tough, very, very hard, and very, all the things. And so there was different elements that were kind of missing, in that relationship dynamic that we had. And so, there was a lot of issues sometimes that, presented themselves. And it wasn't until sometime after I had my first son, I'm really kind of sitting and having one of those random moments, like you say, like you had, and I'm thinking about my relationship with my dad, and I'm thinking about my relationship with my son, what it's going to look like, and what I want that relationship to look like, and how I want to, you almost kind of don't realize you feel the need to kind of compensate in an area that you didn't necessarily feel like you got enough of. And but this was the first part of revelation for me. I'm sitting there, and as I'm sitting there, I think about my dad, and I think back to the moment of when I held my son the first time. And I think about how vulnerable I felt, and I was thinking about how much I still didn't know, and how much of the future was unknown. And I thought about how imperfect I am, right? You talk about extending grace. Thought about how imperfect I am in that moment. And I was like, it hit me. I was like, whoa. I suddenly realized in my adult, more mature life that I didn't understand as a child, that my dad absolutely did the best he knew how to do, right? But he wasn't perfect. He can't be perfect. Like, I'm not going to be perfect, right? And so it prompted me to I called my dad, and I had a conversation with him. And it was one of the conversations that we had about, hey, all the things, and, forgiveness, and, tears shed and all that kind of stuff like that. And I said, my dad, my main reason for calling you is I felt like I needed to call you right now and say thank you. Thank you for doing with us what you knew to do with us. Thank you investing in us and showing us the things that you did show us that you knew how to show. And I can't tell you how much in that moment was, first of all, healing for me. Okay. In areas that I really didn't would have known was still there, right? Just that conversation and that thank you to him and that me recognizing how imperfect it is. But then here was the second part of the revelation. Second part of the revelation was, but you do have a perfect father.
Mm.
And it's me, right? And so it hit me. And so it was one of the most powerful moments I think I've ever experienced in my life, where the father says to me, this is what you do. Because I know you wanna things to be different. Know you want things to be better. You father your children the way that I father you. Because the relationship that they have with you as their father is going to be the first indicator or the first pattern. It informs the pattern that they will later develop in their relationship with me as their father. And man, I'm telling you to look at, you know, how does he handle me when I mess up? What does that look like when I need forgiveness? What does that look like? What does his correction look like to me?
Right.
I mean, it was like, man, I could escape. I don't have to follow the imperfect template because I have a perfect one to follow. I have a relationship that's happening between me and him. And it's like, man, all I have to do is just copy what he's doing when he's dealing with me. And it's like, man, that just revolutionized everything for me, man. I don't know. That just, like children say today, that hit different. It just did. Um, and so, man, I realized how being intentional, about those things, and you have those things, and so, I mean, I mean, isn't that something? I mean, talk to me a little bit about that. Just, it's amazing.
Yeah, you said a lot there, and that's really powerful because we do have the perfect father, the perfect template to follow, and that's the beauty of it. Because the when you realize that, I think you embrace that, not just realize it, but you embrace it. That becomes very, very powerful, and that goes back to something we were talking about earlier. A lot of times, because we're men, we want to fix immediately, right? We see this model, like a lot of people will see this model and they'll think about it and they'll say, okay, now I'm talking to God. I feel like I see God and now I'm going to fix this thing. But sometimes what we have to do is stop and take awareness, have awareness of what's going on, have awareness of what it truly means. Because before we could say we're going to implement this, and this is part of like actually the concept that I call lead last. There, lead last just simply means that there are things that you have to do before you can be an effective leader. That means that you're going to lead last. And in this case, the thing that you need to do is you need to understand who God is. You have to understand his character. And that's why things like reading the Bible and studying and going to Bible study, learning from people, that's why it's important so you can understand his character because you can't replicate what you don't truly understand. Because you can, if you did, you'll go to
Hmm.
some of the Bible and you'll say, oh, well, God has a wrath. I can go through and I'll just tear up my house because, God gets angry and he can tear up the house. But you need to read the Bible and understand it in context. So that way you understand that God is a
Right.
loving father. That's what the whole gospel is about. It's about the love of Christ, the sacrifice of Christ. And that's what we're trying to do as parents, as fathers, is we're trying to learn every single day how to sacrifice for our children. Now, what does that look like? I love when we talk about this
Hmm.
word sacrifice. I love when we talk about the word love because we're really talking about giving up
Hmm.
something. And what is that something? In today's world, I like to equate it to simply sometimes giving up your time. Giving up literally being present, and that's what something you're talking about. It's doing what you know how to do. So if you're a parent, if you're a father, and you know how to build cars, and you're a mechanic, you're mechanically inclined, or say you're a plumber, or maybe you're a writer, no matter what your profession is, use that to spend time with your children. Go into their rooms and read with them. Do what you know how to do, right? Don't try to just go out and you may hear some tips on here. You want to apply it. Of course, we have frameworks and we want you to practice these things. Yeah, absolutely. But do what you know how to do. Be present. That's what you're talking about with your father. Like he was present. He was doing his best based upon how he grew up and the things that he learned throughout his life. And you have to do the same. Just continue to do what you believe because that presence is important. So you're sacrificing your time to give to your children and invest in their lives. You're sacrificing your ego, and that's a big one. Because here's the deal. Like I know we talk about, like I said, we talk about our anger and our frustration, and a lot of times as fathers, as parents, I think we sometimes have our ego is what gets in the way of us truly teaching our children and helping them build the resilience that they need. And I'll say it. The reason I say that is because there's been many times in my life where I've gone to correct my child, and the correction I'm giving them is a correction because I'm embarrassed. I'm correcting them out of some kind of feeling that I have. I'm not just correcting them so I can teach them how to be better or teach them how to understand the world. I'm correcting them because you showed out and you embarrassed me in the store. So now I got to get through my feelings and my emotions about you embarrassing me. And then at some point, maybe at the very end, I'll get to the actual correction and life lesson. And that's something we have to continue to flip on its head. That child, they ran off at the mouth at you. And now you got to show them, hey, I'm dad. My son will never check me. Let me get him up against that wall real quick, snatch him up and show him that I'm pops. But then are you really teaching him the lesson that you need to teach him? Or are you really responding because of your ego and your emotions? And that's really one of the things we have to sacrifice. Again, that's time, that's emotions. And it's sacrificing. Sometimes it's just straight up sacrificing the things that take our attention away from them, our distractions. And I know it's tough, especially for creators and for busy men, for professionals, because in this world, like when you leave your workplace, they even give you now devices that you are expected to take home. Because it used to be, oh, well, I did work at work and I do home and home. And I say used to be, I haven't been working that long. I was commissioned in the Marine Corps. So I started my adult life really in 2012. And so when I say it used to be, I'm not talking about like some, 20, 30 years ago. I'm talking about literally in the last 10, 15 years, we've transitioned from a place to where all the work was happening behind a desk in a home, in your workplace, to home now, and you're constantly getting emails, you're constantly getting calls, and it's almost like the work day never ends. But you still have to sacrifice something for those children. You have to sacrifice the things that are important. And the last thing I'll say, and this one's going to sound a little bit counterintuitive, but I want people to stay with me. I would say you sacrifice at times the thing that you deem your purpose. Now, this was tough, and I had to wrestle with this one for a while, but it was because I was reading and studying, and I was trying to figure out this, how can I now prioritize the things that I know that's important. And I know I want to go out and impact the world and change the world and do all these great things. How do I prioritize that versus spending time with my children? And something simple happened. My daughter came to me when I was writing an article, and this is one of those heartfelt articles that I was like, okay, this is going to be great. I think this is going to change the world. It's blah, 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 all these kind of stuff. And my daughter came to me and said, hey, Dad, can we ride bikes? And I remember sitting back like, why in the world would my 5-year-old, I think she was 5 at the time, come in and ask me to ride bikes? She must not know what I'm doing. Right? I'm in here trying to change the world. And in that moment, like I heard myself as I told her, hey, not right now is what I told her. But in my head, I'm listening to like this loud voice, like, dude, you're doing important stuff. Like, tell her to go play with her friends. And that's the tension we feel day to day. And so how do we get there? And one of the biblical examples I have is the story of Mary and Martha. Jesus came over, Mary's in there just hanging out, just chilling with Jesus, having a good time. And Martha is in there like preparing. She's doing the thing. She's like, hold on, we got this dude that came. We got to get him ready. We got to set him up right, And that's the story that I really God led me to as I was thinking about this tension. Martha's doing the right thing. She's doing all the protocols. Like she's making sure that he's taken care of. I like to imagine it's like a Thanksgiving meal. And she's laying out all these things. And Mary's just in there chilling. Right? She's just hanging out. So Martha's just like, hey, come on, Jesus, you see this? I'm in here slaving behind this counter and I'm trying to get everything ready. And she's just in there hanging out. Tell her to get up and come out, come help me. And Jesus is like, well, I mean, I'm here. Right. So probably the better perspective, and obviously I'm paraphrasing, but the better perspective would be if I'm here, perhaps you shouldn't spend all your time preparing all these great things. And maybe you should just come hang out with me and spend some time and connect. And that story, when I was thinking about it in that moment, that small moment with my daughter riding bikes, it resonated with me, and it really helped me to understand that we just have to look at that balance every single day. When is it time to sacrifice that thing that we believe is important, to spend time with our children and invest more time with them? And those are the kind of things that I think that modern parenting really desires, really calls for. It's telling us that we have a lot of stuff that we need to do, but we have to find a way to continue to invest and sacrifice for our children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. One of the words that I find very, very powerful is the word balance, right? When you don't have balance, you tend to become victim of extremes, right? And you tend to go to the extreme, in one way or the other. But balance is important. It's important to our life. It's important to our walk with the Father, raising our families, all things. So I find that to be very, very good, helpful, wholesome, practical advice that we can utilize, because we definitely want, we're spiritual people, but the reality is that our lives really are based on practicality of following these principles, these guiding principles that really lead us and govern us, in the things that we do. We're I'm enjoying this so much, by the way. I just want you to know that. But I also want to kind of just highlight a little bit about how you really are passionate about, helping to keep children out of prison, out of the penitentiary, out of the penal system, and equipping them and helping them to lead. Um, so talk to me a little bit about that, and what you feel, is an essential role, things that need to happen to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, so one of the things that when I was talking about this back home, I was talking about how we need to be passionate about it. We need to get on board. We need to figure these things out and continue to work. And I'm talking to these young men like, man, you can do this. You can blah, 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 and all these things I'm giving them. And the key question that was asked to me is, what's the alternative? And that was heartfelt, because I was like, okay, what do you mean, what's the alternative? You go to school, you get your degree, you make money the legal way, blah, 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 all these things. But one of the things that we have to realize is that a lot of these young men and young women are facing immediate problems. So our long-term solutions, or our 5-10 year plan to improve their life, quote unquote, may not work for them. And so what we have to start looking for is immediate solutions to immediate problems. And that's where we all step in. This is where, when you're talking about, let's talk about the problem of identity and insecurity. One of the problems with identity, specifically when you're talking about trying to keep young people out of the penal system, is that they start to identify with someone else who is guiding them and influencing them, right? And why are they doing that? Because there's a void, there's a gap there. In many cases, there's not a lot of extracurricular activities and things that they can participate in. There's not a lot of mentorship programs. And so their model, their alternative, is to go to their older cousin, their older brother, people who have these street smarts that they believe is the right answer. This is the alternative to what they're doing. In many cases, though, if you have healthy programs, no matter whether it's a basketball program, it could be intramural soccer, it could be, my mom, she did a sewing program for us. We did jump rope, drill team. There's all these programs, whether it be your church or your school, no matter what, or you're just in your neighborhood and you see the need to do a skipping rope competition or something like that. You just want to bring kids out that do, jump rope or whatever it may be. Go out and start helping to create these programs to get children involved, because that's the immediate need. In some cases, they're looking for an identity. A lot of us want to have some kind of higher purpose for living. And many times that immediate thing that we see there is the identity. The second thing I will say, one of the biggest needs is that there's a lot of poverty. What you'll see is that if you were to look at the areas, if you zoom in on these areas that are impoverished, a lot of problems that we see is those petty crimes that lead to that 3 strikes you're out rule. A lot of those are driven strictly by economics. It's very simple. You have to have money to pay the bills. This is not anything that's advanced. We know this. But the problem is, if we tell somebody that I'm going to pay you $5.25 or $6 or something here, and they know that their parents are behind on medical bills, or they're behind on light bills or whatever have you, they're not going to come to you for a job. they're not going to come to you and say, okay, well, I'll take your legal money, when they know they can go out and make a quick, fast $400, $500 here and there right there on the street corner. And so, really, that's another opportunity. And this is one thing I would say my papa did a phenomenal job. He did this, and he's not my real papa, but he's a guy, he's a pastor, and he truly invests in the community. But he would find work to do in his yard, right? He will find work to do at other people's houses. And I mean, I learned so many odd jobs with him. It's not even funny. Whether it be, doing landscaping, I've worked on cars, I've done some of everything with this man. I worked on a chicken farm, it's just some of everything we've done. And it's insane to think about. But what he was doing is he's trying to provide opportunities, because the alternative, as we talked about, the alternative is I'll go get quick cash, and in some cases you may get away with it. And typically I've talked to deputies, and I know this how it happens. You get away with it for years unless you're just blatantly obvious right in front of a police officer. They build up the case against you. And then once you have a little bit more and they can actually throw the book at you, now you're in prison. And they're trying to help track that system and figure out who's higher in the chain. And so these are the things we have to understand. So if we're going to go and serve, the biggest thing is I truly believe that we have to understand the environments that we're serving. And that's where all these community organizations and these other people who are embedded in this community, I really, if there's anything I can urge you to do, is truly go out and understand the need, because you're in these communities, you know what's going on, and then meet that immediate need in some way. Find a way to meet those needs, because those children out there, they're looking for an alternative. And if you don't meet the need, they will find an alternative. And unfortunately for us, it's disproportionate. These young men, especially these young Black men, are finding themselves in very peculiar situations because they found an alternative, and then they don't see a way out. And this is one of the hard parts about some of the guys I grew up with. Once they get into the system, it becomes a part of them. One of them I talked to, he felt it. He's like, yeah, the prison is just like military. And at first I was like, what do you mean it's just like the military? He's like, well, you go through a life altering event, and you build your friendships, you build your community, you build this, you build that, but then you get out. And then what? You get out and you can't get a job, you can't do this, you can't do that. There's a list of things you can't do. Some can't come within certain distances of their family or their kids. And so you have this list of can'ts. So it's like, well, what's my alternative, right? I go right back into the system. And this starts at an early age, and it's just cyclical. And that's one of the things I would say. I would say that we just have to continue to try to invest in our young men, continue to invest in these young people and all nationwide, and continue to just try to be a part of their transition story. And that's where I think we'll grow. And if we just do that, I think the world will be a very good place. Meet the need, the immediate need, and continue to invest and grow these young people.
I think you make a very, very valid point there. That when you see and recognize that need, jump in there. Find out what it is you have to offer. Jump in there, work to fill it out. It makes me think of a passage of scripture that says, "Whatso do it," and then go forth and do it with all you might. Now, what's interesting is. I want to talk a little bit about as we kind of start to wind down here, which I'm so sad about. We may have to do this again, but I want to kind of talk about some of the things that you have available, some of the resources that you have available. I understand there's a website. I believe I have this right. The website is www.parent-child-connect.com. Did I get that right? I think I got that right. And I went on the website. Listen, y'all want to go over there. There's some really good tools that are available over there. I saw that there's some children's books that are over there. My funny thing is my grandson, he's 1, right? But because of the way my daughter-in-law and all that, and son deals with them, he likes books. And of course, he can't read at this particular point in time, but I mean, he likes books, and he likes this thing he likes to do where when they're reading the book to him, he likes to be the one to turn the page. It's so funny because she said she was reading the book and she turned the page, and then he kind of looked at her like, "What are you doing?" So he turned the page back, and so he wants to turn when it's time to turn the page. So funny, but he has some books over there, some good children's books that are available over there, that are available to check out. In particular, there's one that's called Crow from the Shadow, little children's book. And tell us a little bit about what, inspired that book. I think you probably already mentioned a little bit about what inspired that book, a little bit more about your resources, yeah, social media, all the kind of different things like that, where we can kind of learn more about you and your content and your work. And then, of course, I would love for you to just share with us, maybe a parting thought, something that you hope that the listeners, in particular, out of all the things, walk away with from this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And you definitely got the website right. It is parent-child-connect.com, just like you said. And on the website, you'll see all kinds of resources. There's free downloadable resources. Like you said, there are my children's books. There are the YouVersion content partnership. You can go on there and see all the Bible app or Bible plans that we've done through that Bible app. You can see all these things that ways to contact me, because I love reaching out and meeting new people. It's all on the website. So if you go there, you'll see it. And to talk about Crow from the Shadow in particular, Crow from the Shadow really came from a personal spot. We've already talked about growing through our insecurities and trying to figure out what our identity is. But there's the other part of this, the shadow, that's this, I didn't define it, but it's loosely defined as a person, place, or thing that tells you that you cannot achieve your goal. And you're going to sit down with the child and explore this story together. The idea is a little abstract, but I love it. That's why I made it rhyme, because it's abstract, but we tried to make it sort of realistic and rhyming, and it has some flow to it. The idea behind it, though, when you get to the end, you find that Crow has been told multiple times that he likes this, but he shouldn't do that because the shadow said he shouldn't do it. And in the end, it says only one can determine my future. That one is me. And that's the message we're trying to convey through Crow from the Shadow, is to allow parents to sit down, or adults to sit down with children and reinforce that, yes, the shadow exists. We cannot deny that the shadow exists. We have to confirm that that shadow exists. As we already talked about, give that shadow a name. And then lastly, help them work through overcoming that shadow so they can truly achieve what they are put on this earth to achieve. So that's what Crow from the Shadow is really about. It's about finding ways to connect with children. And I have to acknowledge what your children are doing with that 1-year-old, because I think this is an important part. Reading books to children is really important. Yes, there's guys on YouTube just like me. I've read books aloud. I've read my books aloud on YouTube. So if you're interested, you can go see them. But there's still value to you, the parent, the adult, sitting down, looking at that child, or even if they're in the womb, and you're reading alongside them. You're reading to them because they're seeing your facial expressions. They're learning from your inflections. They're learning how to speak. They're learning vocabulary. They're learning how you're dealing with emotions. So if you're reading something that's emotional and they see you get emotional, they're learning how to deal and regulate those emotions. There's so many things that they're learning from reading. So I always encourage parents to read, read, read. I am also a literacy advocate. I love books. I don't even know how many books myself. I refuse to throw them away. I'm pretty sure I have at least 200-300 books in my house right now, whether it be children's books or my own personal collection. I advocate for reading with your children. And the biggest thing, if there's a parting shot, aside from getting and reading with children, and just for the record, if you have older children and you're like, well, how do I do that? Just make it a book club. It's pretty simple, right? You find a book, an article, or whatever it is, you guys read it together, and you have that discussion, just like a book club would. Don't overcomplicate it. I think it's that simple. And if there's a parting shot that I must give, though, it's that I encourage every single parent, every single adult out there to invest in yourself.
Yes.
Never forget that you cannot pour from an empty vase. That means a lot, because at the beginning of the day, every single day, I believe that we should invest at least 10 minutes in our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual areas. You can combine them if you want to, but you should do at least 10 minutes in each of those, because you have to fill yourself up. You're not selfish because you want self-care. In fact, it may be the other way around. If you're trying to pour from an empty vase, that may make you selfish. But you have to prioritize your self-care, make it a non-negotiable, and ensure that you're always pouring back into yourself. So that way you can truly pour into everyone else. Again, I really appreciate this opportunity. This has been, I can continue to talk for the next 3 hours if we had the time, but this has been a really enriching conversation, and I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Same here. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for being in the space, to providing the support, for being an advocate for parents all over. It's so important. It's important work. It's needful work. It's essential work. It's a calling that I believe is from the Father. And I know that many people will continue to be impacted. I'm really grateful to be able to connect and build community and connection relationship. I'm going to be digging into the site. As a matter of fact, I'm already planning to get my grandson some of those couple of those books for him to turn the pages in and all that thing, man. So I appreciate what you're doing, the work that you're doing. Just encourage you to keep going. And listen, audience, you heard it. Go to the website, check it out, right? Go and get those books. Go get those free downloadable materials, right? One of the things I learned was learning that in order for me to be a better father, in order for me to be a better husband, I had to first start with being a better man. And so the development for myself, the growth for myself, right? Sometimes we like to use the terminology, well, you got to go through things in life. Well, yeah, it's better. You do have to go through things in life, but it's better to grow through things in life.
Mhm.
And so that's what we want to be doing. We want to be found guilty of growing through things in our lives, and know that at there's a reward, right? That there's definitely a reward at the end. I'm like I said, I'm sitting here with adult children now, and I'm looking at them, watching them demonstrate the things that my wife and I put in them, the lessons that they learn, as they follow through and make their own errors and stuff like that. They know how to make the corrections, and it's so rewarding. And while I was there playing with my grandson, and just looking, at the life that my daughter-in-law, and my son are building, it's like, man, this is so rewarding. Listen, I am hoping, and I'm saying it again, man. I want you to learn to love to be a father. It is one of the toughest jobs you will ever love, but it is one of the most rewarding things to be able to witness and see the fruit of your labor. All right. Olalo, man, I can't tell you how much fun I have had, how much I have enjoyed this conversation, how much I'm looking forward to engaging again at some point, and just kind of talking and connecting and building more relationship as far as this is concerned. So I thank you so much for your time. Thank you all, the listening audience, for being in and good takeaways from this conversation. Some tools, even if it's just, hey, I'm going to get started here. Know that he's already told you. You can go to our websites, both the websites. There's a way for you to get in contact if you want to, talk and have some conversation sort of things. That's available for you. So please, by all means, make sure again, like, subscribe, hit the notification button, share, and man, replay this as much as you need to be able to get what you need to be able to go further in your journey. All right. So thank you all. Thank you, my brother now, Alalu, for joining us and being a part of our conversation today. Thank you all so much for being a part of this journey with Facts and Fatherhood. Stay tuned. There is so much more to come, and we are excited about what's up ahead. See y'all next time.